So you beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Now I'm sure we all agree that the most important thing you can do at the start of a game is accumulate enough cash to get yourself a loadout. A loadout will give you a massive distinct advantage in Call of Duty Warzone. In today's video I'm going to give you the top 5 unnamed locations that I believe you should land at that are highly uncontested, which will give you that advantage to loot freely without people trying to interrupt. Now, I'm not going to say that people are never going to land with you, but it's unlikely, and it'll be a number of people that you can deal with quite easily. So C3, these are the coordinates when you bring up the mini-map. This is my most popular land spot, and you can see there are several different places to go to buy stations. Where I've just marked, one usually spawns also. So this is a great spot to land because you've got several directions you can go once you've accumulated enough money for your loadout. And it's a place that people tend not to go to because there's the chopper. There's a lot of diversions and a lot of reasons why people may not land with you. In terms of the buildings, I tend to land at office first, which is where we are now, or you can land at the restaurant. This will have plenty of loot in there, but I've done the video in terms of speed at double the speed, so you can kind of get an idea of how I loot the places we go to in the video. And as you'll see, we accumulate a lot of money in this little village and we don't run into any enemies whatsoever. And then the plan of the buy stations that we've chose to use are in the plan, and we managed to get our loadout with our first unsuspecting victim finally coming in. And this gent came over obviously with the same idea, and I've taken all his money also. I've just spent 10 grand, I've ended up with 6,100. Next up on the map is a place I call Donut Town, and this is where me and my friends also land. Now, bang in the middle of Donut Town is usually a buy station. Obviously, the amount of people coming to the places you land are usually dictated by the amount of contracts and the direction of the plane. As you can see, this is one of the first places off the drop. We've got plenty of buy stations. One also comes in at that cul-de-sac on the left hand side, but no one drops here. There are a total of 8 houses, and each house usually has a total of 2 boxes, one at the minimum. And then you have the biggest house, which we call nursing home, and this has about 4 boxes at the top, at the most. And it's just a great little place to put you in a situation where you can get your loadout drop and then start pushing into places like Promenade East, Promenade West, or even if you want to start moving over to downtown via park. It's all viable in this situation. So this is another place that I would say is a great place for you guys to consider landing at as one of my top 5 locations. And you can push out to the coast and go to the buy stations knowing that you're unlikely to come across anyone. Next up, we've got G3. Now, G3 is bang in between Lumber and Quarry. So these are 2 destinations that most people like to land over and quite often overlook this particular one. Now, there are several buildings that you can see here, and there always tends to be these 2 buy stations. And if you haven't got those, you can move down south into H4, and you usually have 2 buy stations either side of the ravine. This one here has got a big blue building that a lot of you might choose to land on at the top. The reason I don't land on it is the fact that lots of people like to go to that particular building. And as you can see, I've come across people, but I've still managed to take them out. So when you land, these places are unnamed. You're probably going to bump into 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 people, but it's not going to be chaotic like Superstore and the likes of Prison and stuff like those. If you're going for big kill games, that's fair enough, but this will give you the opportunity to loot properly and still amass a decent amount of kills for a decent looking game. And it's all about the win, really, isn't it? The amount of kills you get is a secondary thing, I would say. So next up we have E3, which is just on the top right hand corner of Airport, and there are several buy stations and several places you can actually land here. Now, my favorite place to land is the restaurant because I know the layout of the building. I've showed you the restaurant in C3 also. So these are things you can get used to, knowing the layout of the building. As you can see with this one, we amass a crazy amount of money straight away. Now, it is down to RNG how much money you are going to acquire. However, the buildings I'm showing you will always have some type of box in them, so you know that you can loot and at least get yourself some decent weapons and enough money to get yourself a UAV. But in this one, it was definitely right for us, and straight away I've managed to get my loadout without, again, any interruptions. You can see the kills in the top right hand corner. I've just been looting freely and being able to concentrate on getting my loadout and then having a plan. And if you want to start getting aggressive, that's something you can absolutely do. So here's our loadout. The buy stations are local, as you can see, and again, we are able to do the loadout without any real hiccups. And then finally, our last top 5 unnamed locations is going to be H4. So there's a theme with these. We try our best to land in unnamed locations which have all the utilities that you will need to make sure you have a decent enough game. The minimal amount of people, a buy station is always important, somewhere that offers contracts. Now, what I try to do in terms of contracts is I don't go straight for the contracts, because that's usually a death sentence. I always try and land somewhere which is just away from the contract, so I know I can get a better weapon before I meet these people. In these circumstances, I've chose to go to the side with the buy station on the basis that it's got enough buildings for me to acquire enough money to go to the buy station and either buy myself a UAV to find out where the rest of my enemies are, or buy my loadout. So them are the 2 priorities I always have. If I don't quite have enough money for a loadout, I will use a UAV and then wait for the game drop to come in, which is just after the first circle. So we dive in here and we land at the bunkers. It's always where I land. You may get slightly contested here because it is slightly more popular. You see we've got one enemy there, which you'll see I'll deal with quite easily in a moment. But it's a great place to land because it's quite tricky, and people who don't land with you are going to find it quite hard to work out which actual bunker you are in. And again, we get some decent loot out of here. There's plenty of little places for you to hide if you get in a bit of a sticky situation, and you can reassess the situation and go from there. It's just a great landing spot and one of my favorites. And you can move over to several places here. You can move over to Quarry, you can move over to Stadium, you can move down to Lumber. So you're kind of central in the map, but just to the east side of it, and it gives you a great option list of where you can go to make progress in the game for that all-important win, because obviously that's what we're trying to achieve here, is getting the loadout and then working out what you're going to do from there. So guys, let me know down in the comment section if there's any particular places that you would have mentioned for your top 5 unnamed locations in Call of Duty Warzone. Guys, there are many buttons you could hit, but a like and subscribe button, I hope they tickle your fancy. And as always guys, don't forget to stay on the right track. Peace.